option of recording.
Oh, I
Okay,
see.
okay, okay.
Right, right. May I start again? Sorry.
It is record. It is
Yeah, yeah,
recording.
yeah. Okay. So, once again, this is what we mean by extensive readings, and this is the definition. Read quickly and enjoyably with the adequate comprehension, so we don't need a dictionary. So this is what we mean by extensive readings. All right. And this is the aim of extensive readings. So the aim of extensive reading is not to make student better at the it's not about making student read to learn the language itself, but the aim of extensive reading is to have students become better readers. So this is the aim, the big aim of extensive readings. So when students read sufficiently enough, and then they will be able to read fluently, smoothly, without any obstacle. Even the text is a little bit, above their current level. Let us imagine about how we learn how to ride a bike at first. Maybe our uncle, our grandfathers, our sister or brother help us and assist us how to ride a bike. And at first, we could not do very well. We need to practice again and again, again and again, and then we become skillful. And how can we explain the word skillful? If I think is a easy as the example to explain is you can see the food delivery, maybe Grab or maybe Food Panda. It doesn't matter how the traffic busy is, they can ride their motorbike fluently. This is what we mean by reading fluently, right? Okay, so next I'm going to compare the extensive reading with the intensive reading. Okay, extensive reading, we use storybook. As you can see, this is one of my favorite book, Different Worlds. And intensive reading, we usually use textbook with comprehension question check later after reading. Normally, we call post reading, for example, to check the student comprehension, right? And the purpose of intensive reading usually to learn grammar or vocabulary, so on and so forth. But the purpose of extensive reading is to have students better at reading. So it has different purpose, but it's not bad. Intensive reading and extensive reading complement each others, right? They can go together. These are the characteristic between extensive reading and intensive reading that you can see on my screen. So they have different purpose. Read for flashes, fluency, general understanding, but intensive reading, read for detailed understanding and the language analysis. Reading material, usually extensive reading, we use storybook, and intensive reading, we use short text, short difficult text chosen by teacher usually. Unlike extensive reading, we allow students to choose by themselves, right? And later, I'm going to share with you on how to help students to select the right storybook for them. And the speed is, we can say, fast and smooth. Students can read at their own speed, okay, in a speed that they can understand the story. But intensive reading, students need to read slowly and carefully. And the focus for extensive reading is focus on meaning and judgment. And for extensive reading, maybe we try to help students to learn more vocabulary, grammar, and accuracy. That's why we need to have the comprehension check by the end of the readings. And usually we don't use dictionary for extensive readings, but intensive reading often used. And yeah, this is one of the criteria of extensive reading. We read large quantity of text, but we don't read a lot for intensive reading, just a short text with you know, target words or target structure that we want them to learn. Yeah, we can say as I mentioned earlier, students choose what they want to read, but intensive reading, the teacher select the text. Or maybe the text is designed by the school already. For example, one school adopt one particular textbook, so we need to follow the textbook, right? And for the teacher role, it's quite different. So teacher encourage, facilitate independent learning, meaning a student need to explore things by themselves. And for intensive reading, focus is on instruction and explanation. Maybe we can have discussion question, for example, and comprehension level. So general understanding, and then for extensive reading and for intensive reading is detailed comprehension, right? Okay, and for the material for extensive reading, usually we use storybook, novel, comics. And what do we mean by storybook? Storybook usually is the material that is graded level by level. For example, we start with starter, beginner, elementary, pre-intermediate until advanced level, right? Actually, intensive reading, all it is written in the same way. Everything is structured. But for storybook or graded reader are written in very systematic ways. So the words and the grammar are carefully selected to include into the storybook. That's why the student will not face or encounter will not encounter many new words, right? It's because we want the student to expose to the partly known word and partly known structure. For example, in the classroom, they might learn conditional sentences or maybe reported speech. So, but then they don't have enough time to practice reported speech or conditional sentences again because the classroom teacher need to move on. However, when we allow them to read storybook, then they will meet those structures and words again and again and again many times. That's why it improves the language skills. So the activity should be like silent reading, book sharing, or reading logs. Maybe we ask students to record the numbers of book that they have read in one paper so that they know that how many book they finish. And when they have seen that they have finished a lot of book, and then they feel that okay, they have a lot of achievement. So this is also the motivation for students as well. Okay, but for intensive reading, just sometimes we translate text, answer in detail, and then take analysis for grammar or vocabulary purposes. Okay, so I think it's long enough for the comparison between extensive reading and intensive readings. So I try to summarize all the benefit of extensive reading here. And this is not my own idea, and this is not my own experience. This is we know from research. Many researchers have found this, and now I'm going to talk how we start the to implement extensive reading. So, what are the things that we should think when we would love to start extensive readings? I would love suggest you to start with why. Maybe you should ask yourself, why do I need to start extensive reading with my student? Why do I need to do so? This is the big question that we need to ask ourselves. Why do I need to do so? I think not different from you all. We are on the same line. Yeah. So Maybe we wish to help our student to build healthy reading habits. Maybe later on they can depend on themselves to learn more, to improve language proficiency, to develop positive attitude toward readings, and to sustain lifelong learning. So this is maybe the reason behind that we want to start extensive readings and we want our student to read more. Maybe you can have more, I guess. Not only this four, but this is what I can comes up into my mind right now. That the reason behind I start to explore extensive readings. And these are the tips that you may consider before you start the extensive reading. So first, I do this. So we need to read research paper to know what happened around this topic. So we need to read. Maybe you read paper conducted in Vietnam, in Thailand, in Japan, in Korea, in Taiwan, also in somewhere else, the part of the world. We need to read research papers. As I mentioned earlier, I have read around 100 papers. So to start extensive readings. And then also I watch educational video. Usually I go to YouTube and I watch Dr. Rob. But before Dr. Rob, I also watch Richard Day. Richard Day is everyone call him the father of extensive readings because he even before Dr. Rob. So he the one who created the 10 principle of extensive readings. But anyway, his 10 principle got a lot of criticized, right? And the third recommendation is to engage with the expert or practitioner. Maybe if you cannot find the expert to engage face to face, maybe you can consider watch the video in YouTube because Dr. Rob has uploaded a lot of video, his talk in YouTube. You may go to the YouTube and then type his name, Rob Waring, and then you will see a lot of video pop up. Okay. Uh, and you may consider presenting this topic at conferences, maybe Cambodian ALT conference, or maybe try to apply for a sponsor, or maybe you can pay to present in campus hall. Last but not least is to write and publish an articles. I did one already recently. Okay, and these are the 5 recommendations that I share with you and how I improve myself to understand extensive reading well. And okay, now we come to step 1 on planning your own library. Luckily, in my school I already have one library and I also have some book already, so it's not hard for me to start up the extensive reading program. And nowadays, my school also have budget for extensive reading, so I am so lucky. Uh, before you plan your library, you must uh, ask such questions. Um, what my suggestion for you is to think big and start small. What do I mean by think big and start small? Think big means you want to implement the extensive reading program, the whole school. But start small, do not start with the whole school. You may start with maybe your class only. Do not start with all classes. Maybe when you fail and then you will get very demotivated. Better to start with your own class, learn the problems, try to deal with the problems, and then highlight the recommendation for future improvement. This is what I mean by think big and start small. Okay. So these are questions that you need to think critically. So maybe you need to think about how much do students need to read and how often. And then should class time be allocated to this? If so, how much and when? So this is something that we need to think about. And how many books do we need to cover different level of abilities and interests? should we integrate extensive reading into the existing class or have a special extensive reading class? In Cambodia, I don't think we have extensive reading class, but in Japan, they run extensive reading class. For example, like there are 4 hours and a half for each week, so the student go to the class and then read the book. And in the classroom, there are so many around 3 to 500 books in the classroom, so the student can select, the book that they want to read. Okay, this has happened in Japan, but I'm not sure in somewhere else. And especially in our context, we cannot do like that yet. And maybe we should ask where we should keep the books. Like as I mentioned, we are so lucky if we have a library. So how should we manage the library? Do we have the librarians? And when and how often do students change their books? So this is the things that we need to think ahead. And also, how do we access the students? Maybe when you propose the extension reading to the school administrator. So you need to tell them in detail how we do it and how we assess it, because everyone need to see the benefit and also the outcome. And if you want to show the outcome, you must know how to assess whether extensive reading work effectively in your classroom. And also, how do we find money for this, right? So if you don't have money, we can still have other way around, but yeah, we should have at least small money for that. And who is responsible for running this program? So this is play very important role in ensuring that extensive reading run smoothly. We need to find somebody who is responsible for this program, right? Okay, and step two. So you may thinking about setting up the library. And you need to think that you need to have both fiction and non-fiction age-appropriate graded readers, right? And we must have a wide range of topics and genres, including romance, detective, drama, thriller, etc. Okay, and we need to have a wide range of books at different levels of difficulty. Maybe you can start with starter level, beginner level, elementary level until advanced level. And how many students do you have? And book that will interest students from age of 5 to 15 years old from now on. Okay. So step three that you need to know as well is maybe before you start, better introduce ER to school administrators, because school administrators play a very important role, right, in helping us to run this program. We cannot do, sorry, it doesn't mean that we cannot do, but if you want to be successful, you need to involve the school administrators, let them know what we are doing. And then you need to also talk to librarian about your plan if you have a library at school. So talking about your plan, explain to the librarian clearly. And I think the librarian will very welcome you, because you are doing something to maintain their jobs, right? And also we need to persuade our school administrator to plan a budget for ER program. This is something that we need to do. Okay, so after planning your library, after talking to the school administrator, maybe you need to introduce ER to student. This is the last stage. So we must introduce ER to student, maybe telling them why we need to do so. Our purpose, why do we need to do that? Maybe student at first, they don't really know what ER is, and we need to tell them one by one, especially tell them the benefits, right? And explain to them, yeah, that I mentioned, explain to student why they need to do ER. Maybe even though you have a lot of money, and then you just go to the bookstore and buy a lot of storybook, and then Monday morning you tell the student, everyone read, no class today, you just read. So maybe the student feel doubt. Oh, what happened and why my teacher asked me to do so? So we need to do it step by step. Okay, that's why I mentioned at the beginning that think big, but we need to start small. Don't go so fast.
Mm.
So what we need to do is to facilitate students to select storybooks. This is our job as a teachers. We know how to have students select the storybooks, right? Maybe if you think that my student is in elementary level, I'm not going to let my student read upper intermediate storybook. It's too difficult for him or her. So this is something that we need to know. And another things that very important is prepare the book in a way that students find them easily. Facilitate, have them select books, the right books, and also prepare the book in a way that student can find them easily. Maybe you can put them into different CEFR level. We can start with elementary or maybe starter, elementary, pre-intermediate, something like that. And okay, everyone, and here how I ran the material for storybook for extensive reading. I categorize the my storybook into different level as you can see in the pictures. From A1, A2, B1, B2, B2, B1, B2, and also B1 and B2, and also C2. But I haven't have a poster for C2 yet. And as you can see, the thick book on the top, so they call native material. I don't really suggest my student right now because those books are written in random way. They don't care about words. They don't care about grammar. They just write what they want to write. So usually I don't recommend my student to read this book because they are too hard for the students. So this is how I arrange my library. And I am so lucky again that the librarian also understand what I'm doing and they help me a lot. Um, so we are in the same line. That's why, we can do things easily, right? So first talk to the librarian. What are you going to do? And if you explain to them clearly, and then they will welcome you and help you to do everything, right? So this is the teacher role that we should do. So read some, tell student to read some pages before pick up the book, not only the book title, cover, or illustration. So tell student that before bringing back the book to read, so they need to read at least one page to see whether the book have a lot of difficult word or not, or to see if they like the book. If they don't like the book, change. Yeah, choose something interest to read. If the book become boring or too difficult, choose something interest to read. If the book become boring or too difficult, they should put it down and find a new one. Yeah, this is I always tell my students, right? So this is our job, teachers. If you think that extensive reading, you just allow students to go to the library and then choose the book, maybe you won't succeed. So we need to have them from one step to a thousand step. And help them to find something that they read at least about 50 minute to 200 word per minute. But the question is, how can the student can achieve this speed 150 and 200 word per minute? So if the student can read this speed, read at this speed, meaning that they can find the right book for them already. The book is easy, new word, and then they can understand uh, you know, sufficiently. Yeah, have them to choose something they can read without a dictionary, and have students to select the book that they can understand almost everything in the book. If the book contain a lot of new words, and then the book will slow down their speed and also cut down their understanding. That's why um, the expert suggests that maybe one page can have around one or two the new words. If there are around 5 words, or maybe like up to 10 words, and then the student cannot understand the whole stuff. So we need to have them with that. And how do we know that the student will face new word or not? This is our job again. We need to talk to the student, ask student, interview student whether the book is okay for you. When reading this book, do you face a lot of new word, for example? So this is the something that we need to consider. So a successful ER program should include, should involve everyone, student, teachers, school administrators, and even parents. Yes, this is I am currently doing so. So I talk to students, I talk to teachers, I talk to school administrator, and I even talk to parents, right, about our program. Okay. Maybe it's also a good marketing for your school that you try to ask their kids to start to read. That is a very nice marketing strategies. And also put extensive reading is a part of teaching timetable and seen as the essential part of the curriculum. So this is one thing that around the world that they have found that many researchers around the world have found that, and we agree together that in order to make extensive reading work effectively in one particular context, we need to put ER into our school curriculum. Okay, for example, maybe for the whole school assessment, at least you provide around 5% or 10% to the whole term assessment, or maybe whole semester assessment, or maybe whole year assessment. In my school, we also attach extensive reading and extensive listening into the school curriculum. So the school offer the 5%. So extensive reading carry 5% and extensive listening carry 5% of the whole assessment. And also involve student in setup and management, right? Yeah, yesterday I asked my student to have to arrange the book as I show you in the pictures. So the student need to involve in this activity, right? And then they know our purposes. And this is also very important. We need to have fun for new reading material. Okay, right. Without fun, so even though without fun, we can still do extensive reading, but it's we face a lot of challenges. But we should have fun to in order to run the extensive reading successfully. Uh, and Something that we should have is we have a variety of interesting material at appropriate level, as I mentioned. So we need to categorize different storybook into different level, and we need to have a lot of book in one different level so that the student can select what they want to read. Maybe we should have system for uh, we need to for categorize everyone. And maybe we need to label and checking out and record and return reading material. So this is a system to manage the extensive reading programs. We have catalog for the extensive reading. Maybe we have different level for the books, and then uh, we need to label the okay, this is elementary and this is pre-intermediate, this is advanced level. So and then we can lead the student to the right categories. And we need to check, we should have a system to check whether the student read or not, and recording and returning materials to make sure that we don't lose a lot of books in one year. And we need to have clear language learning objective. What do you want to be? What do you want student to be after read a year, 2 years, for example? And also have a way to success or have ways to assess the readings. Okay, and how to assess the extensive reading. I'm going to share with you later. Yes, here. So This is not the only way, everyone, but this is the way that I'm doing right now with my student. So I ask them to record what they have read. Maybe just uh, this day I ask my student to read one book per week. Okay, and then they write short reflections or maybe overall sharing like poster presentation. Uh, and sorry. These are the four ways that we can ask them to do for extensive reading, assessment. And if you want to test the understanding, the comprehension of the student is also fine because nowadays I can see many books also include the question, comprehension question. Usually like maybe 2 or 3 chapters, and then they have a few questions to ask student whether they understand the story or not. Okay. But I don't usually ask my student to do so. I just ask them to read, and then they need to record how many books that they have finished. And then they need to write short reflection. And then we also talk informally about the extensive reading and the story that they have read. And this is the form of the book summary. And I ask when they finish one storybook, I ask them to answer such questions. And I submit these book summary every week, every Friday. So every Friday, student need to submit this and then get another book for another summary. So I will do this at least 10 times per term. So my school divided the school academic year into 4 terms a year. So in one term, I make sure that my student will finish around 10 books. So I will do it 10 round with my student. So they need to submit this and then we check, read their summaries, and then let the student read another book. And when they go to the library and borrow the book, they need to uh, borrow the book from the librarians. And then they will return the book Friday next week. Okay. And this is the extensive reading record. So I ask my student to record when they finish one book, write the title of the book, and also mention the level and also the numbers of pages that they have read. And also I ask them to write a comment for the book that they like. Maybe they just write a sentence or maybe even a word. Sometimes the student just write very interesting. Sometimes the student just write in one sentence, the book is very interesting to read, for example. Okay, so here are the challenges that I'm going to share with you. And first challenge is limited time for both teachers and students. I share with you. So uh, we when we implement extensive reading, we are very busy, not really, easy, but we are very busy to have students to select the right book, prepare the library for them, help them to select the book, and check their book summary, so on and so forth. And also, maybe this is all of you really agree that we will lack of reading materials. I think many schools in Cambodia and also part of the world. So we face this challenge, lack of reading materials, delay impact of extensive reading. Yes, this is also another challenge because learning a language is a gradual process. We need to move stage by stage. It's not an overnight activities. So maybe some extensive reading program even take up to a year or maybe years. So it's not overnight activities, right? Meaning that the student need to read a lot at least in 1 year to see the improvement. Okay, and this is also very commonly happen around the world as well. A legitimacy issue. Maybe we teacher are expected to stand in front of the the whiteboard and standing in front of the student talking, speakings, and maybe doing the class activities. But when we allow students to do extensive reading, teacher is sitting down with students Teacher is reading, student is reading. So the school administrator might come and ask, what are you doing? Why are not why aren't you teaching, for example? So that's why you need to talk to and present to your school administrator in detail so that they know what you are doing right now. Okay. Otherwise, this causes problems. Okay. And we cannot avoid this. So most of the school lack of support from school leaders. Some school leader even resist the extensive readings. They don't allow their school to use extensive reading as well, right? And maybe we teacher lack of the knowledge about extensive reading. That's why we are here today to learn more about extensive readings. And maybe we teacher lack of personal experience when we were students. So we didn't or we never did any extensive reading, then we got no experience with it. That's why we need to learn along the way and see the problem happen when we implement it. Yeah, maybe some school have reluctant readers. The student tend not to read because they don't like reading. So, and this is our job to help them to start to read. And maybe we want to implement extensive reading, but we got no professional development opportunities for extensive reading. We don't know where to go. I want to okay, maybe you watch one talk in YouTube, or maybe you join one conference presentation. You feel that, oh, extensive reading is great, amazing, but I don't know how to start because no one tell me more about how to start extensive readings, right? And yeah, maybe many people complain that the demanding of natures of exhibiting principle, but it's fine, everyone. I think if you listen to me from the beginning of the presentation, this is called extensive reading. It's not something that we cannot do. So this is something that we can start, and then we can fix our problem along the way. Okay, and these are my recommendation for you to start extensive readings. Okay, and this is just the recommendation, everyone. You might consider it, or you might think that it won't work for you. So that's why I always says that this is what I'm sharing with you, and you need to think and then consider. Okay, so if you are a school principal and then you want to implement extensive reading, maybe you need to raise awareness of extensive readings to your teachers, to your students. If your teacher do not know what extensive reading is, and then even they want to do, they cannot go to the right direction. They will make a lot of mistakes. So what we need to do is to raise their awareness, let them know what extensive reading is. And then if you are a school principal or school administrator, you need to plan budget for extensive readings. If you want to make it happen, try to make try to make a budget and then plan a budget, and then try to find more money in order to run it effectively and successfully. And also you need to assign a key person for extensive reading. As I mentioned in at the beginning of my presentation, so assigning a key person play a very important role, because that person is somebody who love extensive reading, somebody who know more about extensive reading, somebody who is willing to promote extensive reading in the school. You need to find somebody who is like that. And we need to create a community of practice of extensive reading on extensive readings, right? So when we implement in the classroom, and then we face challenges. When we face challenges, we gather together to talk about our problem. Maybe somebody else comes up with solution, so that we can listen to each other problem and also listen to each other solution. Maybe I am the presenter today. Maybe I will listen to you later, and then I can get your idea and fix my problem here as well. So we learn from each others. Like Simon Sinek Simon Sinek said, he said, if we want to be good at something, we need to put ourselves as the learner, put everything into learning mode, right? So because in our whole life, we need to learn and learn, right? Okay. And yeah, this is also very important, putting ER as the main part of the curriculum, of course. And also, if you think that you don't have enough book, maybe you need to integrate technology to support ER. Maybe you can use free website that I'm going to share with you after this. And you also can also subscribe a extensive reading website called X Reading. And the price is also affordable. It's not very expensive. If your school has a budget for that, maybe you can consider subscribing the extensive reading website called X Readings. Okay, it's really good. It has 2,000 books. It also has an LMS to, track the student progress as well. So it's very nice. I can say the best website ever. And we need to fostering student motivation and personal investment in reading. So this is our job as a teacher, right? Maybe in order to motivate students to read more, maybe you will give them tangible reward when they read a lot. Maybe we can give them a certificate of appreciation that they read a lot. Maybe in can be in words to praise them, and also we do some activity that to prove that reading is very important in their life, so that they will invest more time in readings, and also promote research on extensive readings. Right. That's why we know a lot about extensive reading. We need to know from research. Right. Okay. Right. Now it's come to my conclusion of my presentation. Uh, Extensive reading play a very important role in our academic journey, not only student but also for us. The difference is that we teacher read different things. Student read storybook, maybe we teacher read different things. Maybe we read how to teach vocabulary effectively, and then reading paper is become your habit, and then it's become your extensive readings. Okay. And everyone, this is the reference. What I have presented this morning are from this book, The Extensive Reading Foundation Guide to Extensive Reading, and also my knowledge that I learned from my experiences, and also I learned from research paper that I read. So I try to combine all together into practice. Okay, so now it's come to the end of my presentation. So if you have any question, you can ask. Oh, somebody asked me in the Zoom. Teacher, Pera. Okay. Okay, so now it's come to the end of my presentation. So do you have any question? We still have around 30 more minutes to have the Q&A session.
Yeah, hello, teacher.
Yeah. So can you wait me a minute? I need to stop the recording.
Okay, teacher.
Oh, where end the recording.